Bill Cosby has now spent his first 24 hours in prison. We want to give you a glimpse of what his life will be like behind bars.
The news of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's sudden and untimely death has sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, leaving fans, friends, and colleagues reeling in disbelief, while also stirring questions that no one seems fully prepared to answer. As the beloved actor, director, musician, and poet, life came to a tragic end at the age of 50. For during what was supposed to be a peaceful family vacation in Costa Rica, with official reports describing it as an accidental drowning, yet many in his inner circle finding that explanation difficult to accept given Warner's careful, cautious nature and his reputation for avoiding unnecessary risks. The announcement of his passing spread quickly across social media and news outlets, and while an outpouring of tributes soon followed, it was Adam Sandler's deeply emotional and slightly unsettling comments that drew particular attention. Veteran actor, comedian, and producer, who first met Warner in the late 1980s while appearing on The Cosby Show in a small role as Theo Huxtable's friend Smitty, made it clear that the loss had shaken him to his core, sharing heartfelt memories of how, despite the limited screen time they shared, Warner treated him like family, welcoming him into his circle and spending countless off-camera hours together, walking through the neighborhood, grabbing food, shooting basketball, attending parties, and simply enjoying life in a way that forged a friendship lasting decades. Sandler, who has rarely spoken so candidly about personal relationships in Hollywood, recalled Warner's warmth, kindness, humor, and the deep respect he had not only for his craft but for the people around him, even extending praise to Warner's mother, calling her an amazing woman who had been nothing but supportive and generous to those in her son's life. But it was his statement that something just doesn't sit right about Warner's passing that has kept people talking, as it seemed to hint at underlying doubts about the official narrative, a hint that, combined with the already scarce details from Costa Rican authorities, has only intensified public curiosity and speculation. Adding fuel to this mystery is knowledge that Warner had been working on a highly personal memoir in the months leading up to his death, a project that some insiders believe may have contained revealing insights about his decades-long career in Hollywood, his experiences navigating the industry as a black man, and perhaps even details about the powerful figures and behind-the-scenes dynamics that shaped his professional journey. Yet despite the significance of such a work, the manuscript has not been publicly acknowledged or released, leaving many to wonder whether its contents could shed light on questions now swirling. In the wake of his passing, the absence of a clear timeline of events, the lack of an official autopsy report, and conflicting accounts about whether Warner was alone in the water or accompanied by family members when the drowning occurred have only deepened the sense that crucial pieces of puzzle are missing, prompting both fans and some media outlets to quietly question whether the truth is being withheld. Warner, of course, was much more than just Theo from The Cosby Show, though that role, which he began at the age of 13 after being selected from a nationwide casting call, became a defining part of his public image and a source of pride for many viewers who saw in the Huxtable family an aspirational portrayal of black excellence on television. And after the series ended, he successfully avoided the pitfalls that have ensnared so many former child stars, building a diverse career that included leading roles in sitcoms like Malcolm and Eddie, dramatic turns in shows like The Resident and The People v. O.J. Simpson, and creative work behind the camera as a director, along with a deep commitment to music and spoken word poetry that earned him both critical acclaim and Grammy recognition. Yet even with all of his professional accomplishments, Warner remained intensely private about his personal life, keeping his wife and daughter out of the spotlight and rarely sharing details beyond what he felt was necessary to protect their privacy, which makes the circumstances of his death feel all the more incongruent to those who knew him, as he was not the type to act recklessly or without consideration for his loved ones. 2 days before his death, the final episode of his podcast, Not All Hood, was released, and in it, Warner spoke with spoken word artist Tamika Georgia Me Harper about the media's portrayal of black communities, reflecting on how certain narratives focus disproportionately on hardship while ignoring the richness, resilience, and contributions of those communities, and declaring that the hood side ultimately, historically, is what has always created American culture. A powerful statement that many now interpret as a final message about cultural appropriation, systemic neglect, and the erasure of Black achievements, and which, given the timing, has taken on a haunting resonance. Warner also spoke about his evolving perspective on the concept of Black excellence, recounting how he once viewed it solely in terms of public success, but later came to see survival itself as a form of excellence after learning about the exclusion of Black soldiers from historical records at Arlington National Cemetery, a realization that profoundly shaped his worldview and underscored his commitment to telling stories that matter. These reflections, paired with Sandler's cryptic unease, have led some to draw connections between Warner's outspoken nature in recent years and the tragedies that seem to befall public figures who challenge entrenched power structures. Though no concrete evidence has emerged to support such theories, what remains undeniable, however, is that Warner's sudden departure has left a void not just in the entertainment industry, but in the lives of those who admired his work, his integrity, and his steadfast refusal to let fame compromise his values. And as the tributes continue to pour in, so too does the lingering question of whether the full truth about his final moments will ever be known, with silence, rather than answers, becoming the loudest part of this heartbreaking story. In the wake of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death, the entertainment community found itself reflecting on his unique journey, one marked by resilience, adaptability, and a steadfast commitment to authenticity, qualities that made his story stand out in an industry often defined by fleeting fame and public downfall. And for those who had followed his career closely, it was clear that Warner had consciously avoided the traps that ensnared so many other child actors, steering clear of scandal and instead focusing on growth, creative exploration, and personal integrity. He often credited his mother, Pamela Warner, for guiding him with discipline from an early age, serving as both his manager and his moral compass, and helping him navigate the pressures of early fame without losing his sense of self, something he reinforced in interviews where he described how she instilled in him values of hard work, humility, and careful decision-making, lessons that would prove invaluable when The Cosby Show ended and the so-called Theo label threatened to overshadow any future roles. In the years that followed, Warner methodically rebuilt his career, taking on a variety of acting challenges that showcased his range, from sitcoms like Malcolm and Eddie to crime dramas like Major Crimes and medical series such as The Resident. Even appearing in the award-winning anthology The People v. O.J. Simpson, proving he could transition seamlessly between genres while earning the respect of critics and peers alike. But his talents extended beyond acting, as he also directed episodes of shows like Kenan and Kel, produced music, and developed a reputation in the spoken word community, winning a Grammy for Best Traditional R&B Performance and earning another nomination for his poetry album. Clear signs that his artistic voice could resonate in multiple mediums. Yet even as Warner thrived professionally, he faced deeply personal challenges that shaped his perspective on life. Perhaps none more impactful than the loss of Michelle Thomas, his former Cosby Show co-star and on-screen love interest, who passed away in her early 30s from a rare form of stomach cancer, with Warner reportedly by her side in her final moments, an experience he handled with grace and privacy, never exploiting the tragedy for publicity, but instead allowing it to deepen his appreciation for meaningful connections and the fragility of life. Years later, a very different public experience unfolded during his relationship with actress Regina King, which began in 2011 and ended in 2013, with the breakup making headlines due to reports that Warner had abruptly asked King and her son to move out, followed by her revelation in a later interview that he had ended things on Valentine's Day before sending flowers with a note professing continued love. A gesture she responded to by throwing the flowers away, a stark contrast to the quiet dignity with which he had handled previous heartbreak, and perhaps a turning point that led him to shield his romantic life from public scrutiny entirely thereafter. These personal experiences, whether private or public, contributed to Warner's guarded approach in later years, where he became increasingly selective about what he shared, preferring to let his work and carefully chosen statements speak for him. A philosophy that extended to his creative projects, including his podcast Not All Hood, which gave him the freedom to address nuanced topics about Black identity, representation, and systemic inequities without the constraints of traditional media. In that space, Warner explored issues that were both personal and political, such as his evolving understanding of Black excellence, his critiques of the media's portrayal of Black culture, and his determination to highlight the multifaceted realities of the Black community, all delivered in his thoughtful, deliberate tone that avoided sensationalism but still carried weight. And it was within this context that his final recorded conversation took place, only days before his death, where he reflected on how America has historically taken from Black culture while failing to give proper recognition, and how survival itself is a form of resistance and excellence. Words that, in retrospect, feel almost prophetic. The combination of these final public statements and Adam Sandler's subtle suggestion that something about Warner's death doesn't sit right has become a focal point for fans and commentators who sense that there may be more to the story, particularly given the inconsistencies in early reports, such as whether Warner was truly alone in the water, why details from Costa Rican authorities remain limited, and why neither an autopsy nor a full incident report has been released to the public. While no concrete evidence has emerged to indicate foul play, the silence from official sources has only heightened speculation, with some pointing to Warner's recent work as potentially making him a more outspoken figure than certain powerful individuals might have preferred, though such theories remain unconfirmed and tread the delicate line between mourning and mistrust. Throughout all of this, Warner's legacy as an artist and a human being remains unshaken in the eyes of those who knew him best, as colleagues have emphasized his intelligence, humor, and generosity, noting how he carried himself with a quiet strength even in the face of immense personal and professional challenges, such as enduring the fallout from Bill Cosby's scandal, which not only tarnished the image of the show that launched his career, but also had a direct financial impact by removing it from syndication, a loss Warner openly acknowledged while also pointing out the double standard that allowed the works of other controversial figures to remain accessible. His nuanced public comments about Cosby revealed the complexity of his feelings, refusing to defend alleged wrongdoing, but also refusing to entirely sever ties with a man who had been a formative mentor, and emphasizing the importance of the positive cultural impact The Cosby Show had for generations of Black families, especially in inspiring young viewers to aspire to higher education and professional achievement. That ability to hold space for conflicting truths was a hallmark of Warner's personality, and perhaps part of why his death feels so particularly heavy for those who admired him, because it marked the end of a voice willing to speak honestly but respectfully in a climate where extremes often dominate the conversation. Now, as the days pass without further clarification about what exactly happened in Costa Rica, the mystery surrounding his final moments has become intertwined with the grief, creating a complex narrative where celebration of his life exists alongside unanswered questions. And in this duality, Warner's story continues, both as a testament to a life lived with purpose and as a reminder of how much can remain hidden beneath the surface when someone leaves too soon. As the investigation into Malcolm-Jamal Warner's untimely passing remains shrouded in silence, the focus for many has shifted to his enduring influence and the complex legacy he leaves behind. A legacy shaped not only by his iconic role on The Cosby Show, but also by his decades of artistic versatility, community engagement, and unshakable authenticity. And to fully grasp the depth of that impact, one has to look beyond the headlines of his death to the body of work and principles that defined his life, beginning with his groundbreaking television presence as Theo Huxtable, a role he landed at just 13 years old after being chosen from a nationwide search, a feat that instantly made him a household name and placed him in the homes of millions each week, where his natural charisma and relatable humor resonated with audiences across generations. For many young Black viewers, Theo was more than a fictional character. He was a reflection of themselves in a time when positive, multidimensional portrayals of Black family life were rare on mainstream television. And Warner, even as a teenager, understood the cultural importance of that representation, carrying the weight of that responsibility with remarkable maturity, a quality that only deepened as he navigated the turbulent years following the end of the series. While countless child stars of his era stumbled into scandal or faded into obscurity, Warner charted his own course, resisting typecasting and refusing to be defined solely by his early success, instead seeking roles and creative projects that challenged him, diversified his skill set, and allowed him to tell stories that mattered, whether through acting, directing, or the spoken word, performances that became a signature part of his later career. Performances rooted in his lifelong commitment to uplifting and reflecting the complexities of the Black experience, a commitment influenced by his father's encouragement to study Black leaders and cultural icons such as Langston Hughes, which instilled in him an awareness of history and the power of narrative. Warner's artistry was never just about entertainment, it was about purpose, and this purpose was evident in his Grammy-winning musical collaborations, his critically acclaimed poetry albums, and his socially conscious short films, each serving as a platform to address issues like racial injustice, mass incarceration, and cultural erasure. And it was in these works that his voice, measured, thoughtful, and deeply personal, resonated most powerfully. Yet, alongside his professional achievements, Warner's personal life was marked by experiences that both tested and strengthened him, from the devastating loss of Michelle Thomas, a moment he endured with quiet grace, to the more public and turbulent breakup with Regina King, which taught him hard lessons about privacy in relationships and the harsh glare of the public eye, ultimately leading him to keep his most cherished connections firmly out of the spotlight. Perhaps this careful guarding of his private life is why his death feels so particularly unsettling to those closest to him. Because Warner was not reckless, he was not careless, and every decision he made seemed guided by caution and intentionality, making the official narrative of a sudden accidental drowning during a family vacation in Costa Rica difficult for some to reconcile. Adam Sandler's emotional recollections of their time together on The Cosby Show added fuel to this unease, especially when he admitted that something about circumstances simply didn't sit right. A sentiment that many fans quickly echoed, pointing out inconsistencies in early reports, such as conflicting accounts of whether Warner was alone in the water, and the notable absence of detailed statements from Costa Rican authorities. The speculation has only intensified as days have passed, without the release of autopsy results or an incident report, an information gap that feels jarring in a media environment that usually rushes to deliver every detail of a celebrity's death. And in the absence of facts, theories have flourished, some suggesting that Warner's increasingly outspoken stance on systemic issues and his candid discussions on his podcast may have put him at odds with powerful interests, though such claims remain in the realm of conjecture. Still, for those who followed his recent work, it is undeniable that Warner had become more forthright in challenging narratives perpetuated by mainstream media, particularly around Black culture, openly criticizing how the media focuses disproportionately on struggle and pain, while ignoring the richness, resilience, and creativity that define the community, and insisting that survival itself is a form of excellence worth honoring, a perspective he articulated just days before his death, in what many now believe may have been a deliberate final message, a message that underscored his belief in telling the truth even when it is uncomfortable. This combination of a sudden, unexplained tragedy and a legacy built on careful, intentional living has left a profound void in the entertainment world, one that goes beyond the loss of a talented actor and reaches into the realm of cultural leadership. Because Warner was more than the sum of his roles. He was a mentor, a collaborator, and a voice Authenticity in an industry often driven by image over substance, and his absence is felt not only by fans, but by peers who saw in him a rare combination of humility, wisdom, and artistic courage. Looking back, it is clear that Warner's career trajectory was anything but accidental. Every pivot, every project, every carefully chosen statement was part of a larger philosophy about living with integrity and refusing to be boxed in by others' expectations. And it is perhaps this unwavering adherence to his own principles that makes the mystery surrounding his death so difficult to accept. Because it is hard to believe that a man who lived so deliberately could leave the world in such an abrupt and unexplained way. As tributes continue to pour in, the stories shared by those who knew him best paint a portrait of a man who, despite the challenges of fame, maintained a deep connection to his roots, valued his privacy, and used his platform to elevate others, qualities that make the unanswered questions all the more haunting. And whether or not the full truth ever emerges, the final chapter of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's life serves as a reminder that sometimes the loudest message is in what is not said, and right now, the silence speaks volumes, leaving fans, friends, and family with both an enduring admiration for the man he was, and a lingering ache for the answers they may never receive.